North Atlantic, spring 1943. The ocean stretched gray and endless, a vast expanse where survival depended on precision, patience, and secrecy. In this desolate theater, Corvette and Captain Hansim Schwanka, commanding U-43, prepared to transmit a routine position report. For just 14 seconds, he broke radio silence. Convoy sighted. Position 52 degrees 14 north, 35 degrees 42 west. Course 270. Speed 7 knots, 40 ships. Encrypted, brief. The message vanished into the ether. The Enigma cipher, mathematically unbreakable, should have made this communication invisible. Yet in that instant, an invisible web sprang to life. Across the North Atlantic, 3 listening stations, one in Iceland, one in Newfoundland, and a destroyer at sea, captured the signal. Lines converged on plotting boards. Within minutes, Allied commanders had a position fix accurate to within 5 kilometers. Schwanka had no idea. He had 36 hours before the mathematics of systematic detection would expose the lethal vulnerability of the Wolfpack. For 2 years, the Mid-Atlantic Gap had been Germany's hunting ground, a stretch of ocean too far from land-based aircraft to be defended efficiently. Convoys moved slowly, 7 knots westward, exposed and vulnerable. Admiral Doynit's U-boats called it the happy time. 8 to 12 submarines operated as a Wolfpack, coordinating via radio, attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. On paper, the mathematics favored the hunters. A convoy crawled at 7 knots. A surfaced U-boat could reach 17. Coordination meant communication. Position reports every 6 hours. Convoy sightings, weather updates, tactical instructions. German Naval Command believed the system was secure. Enigma was unbreakable. Radio signals were meaningless to the enemy. Physics, they claimed, prevented anyone from determining a transmitter's location. By late April 1943, Admiral Donitz had positioned 2 Wolfpacks, Group Officer and Group 30 U-boats, along the projected route of Convoy NS 543, traveling from Liverpool to Halifax. 7 escorts faced 30 submarines, a lopsided equation favoring the hunters. Schwanka's orders were simple: coordinate, report convoy positions, prepare for a night attack. 17 times before, he had executed it successfully. But in April 1943, the Allies had perfected a weapon the Germans did not fully understand: high-frequency direction finding, known to the British as Huff Duff. Shore stations in Iceland, Newfoundland, and Britain, alongside shipboard receivers on escort vessels, continuously monitored German radio transmissions. When a U-boat transmitted, the system detected the signal and rotated its antenna until maximum strength was found. A single bearing produced a line. 2 bearings produced a cross. 3 bearings produced a confirmed position. By 1943, the Allies had built a network that covered the entire North Atlantic. Stations in Reykjavik, Argentia, Londonderry, and Bermuda operated around the clock. Every detection was relayed to the Admiralty in London within 5 minutes. When Schwanka transmitted at 0847 hours, the signal was detected simultaneously in Iceland and Newfoundland. A destroyer escort provided the 3rd bearing. Lieutenant Commander Roger Wynne, at the Admiralty's submarine tracking room, plotted the intersection: 52 degrees 16 centimeters north, 35 degrees 40 centimeters west. Accuracy, 4 kilometers. Elapsed time, 90 seconds. Commander Peter Gretton, leading the convoy escort, received the information within 5 minutes. Decisions were immediate. Alert the escort screen. Vector Support Group B7 to intersect. 3 destroyers and a frigate, 60 kilometers northwest, racing toward calculated positions. Launch aircraft from HMS Biter, following a search pattern centered on the HF-DF fix. The convoy moved as before, 7 knots west, unaware that the hunters were no longer the submarines, but the meticulously orchestrated Allied defense. Schwanka, unaware of detection, moved to a forward attack position, preparing to coordinate with other U-boats for a night assault. Standard Wolfpack procedure. 33 minutes later, a swordfish aircraft from HMS Biter sighted a surface U-boat within 3 kilometers of the HF-DF fix. Depth charges missed, but the attack forced Schwanka's colleagues deep, interrupted battery charging, and confirmed that the invisible net worked. The network of physics, mathematics, and rapid communication had closed. 6 hours after Schwanka's first transmission, at 1450 hours, the weather deteriorated. Wind reached force 7. Heavy seas tossed the convoy and the U-boats alike. Visibility dropped to barely 3 kilometers. For years, rough seas had been a U-boat advantage. Surface radar performance degraded, visual detection was nearly impossible, and escort ships slowed in the waves. Yet in these conditions, the U-boats faced a new peril. Submerged boats rolled violently. Crews became exhausted. Batteries drained faster, forcing submarines to surface more frequently to recharge, and surfacing meant exposure. Between 1450 and 1630 hours, 5 U-boats from Group Misa transmitted position updates, 5 brief transmissions. Each one was logged, plotted, and transmitted to the Admiralty via the HF-DF network. 8 U-boats, including Schwanka's U-43, formed a loose arc north and west of Convoy ONS-5. The classic Wolfpack deployment, strung along the convoy's projected track, was now a map for the hunters. Gretton, receiving the full tactical picture from Commander Wynne, coordinated the response. Support Group B7 moved northwest, positioning to block likely U-boat approaches. Aircraft from HMS Biter maintained constant patrol over suspected submarine positions. Escorts equipped with 10-centimeter radar patrolled the convoy's flanks. Their mission, clear: detect surfaced U-boats attempting to charge batteries or maneuver into attack positions. By 1705 hours, HMS Vedette detected a surface contact bearing 285 degrees, range 11 kilometers. The destroyer accelerated to 24 knots. 16 minutes later, the U-boat, realizing the approach too late, crash-dived. Vedette's ASDIC sonar locked on at 1,200 meters, depth 60 meters, speed 4 knots. The captain positioned for a hedgehog attack, a forward-firing mortar that launched 24 projectiles in a calculated elliptical pattern ahead of the submarine. 3 detonations followed, confirmation of contact. At 1734 hours, debris surfaced, wooden decking, oil slicks, fragments of life jackets. U-258 was destroyed. Schwanka, 40 kilometers away in U-43, remained unaware. Only at 1900 hours, when U-258 failed to report its next scheduled transmission, did the grim reality register. Silence meant mechanical failure or death. Nightfall, 02:45 hours, April 29th. The traditional hour for Wolfpack attacks. Submarines surfaced under cover of darkness, preparing close-range assaults. But technology had changed the battlefield. HMST detected a surface contact at 9,200 meters, bearing 047 degrees, moving slowly, likely charging batteries. Lieutenant Commander Robert Sherwood, commanding a destroyer, silently accelerated to intercept. The U-boat remained unaware. At 0312 hours, with range down to 2,800 meters, the submarine finally detected the destroyer and Dove. ASDIC sonar immediately locked on at 40 meters depth, speed 5 knots. Sherwood positioned for another Hedgehog attack. Unlike conventional depth charges, Hedgehogs only detonated on direct impact, preserving sonar contact for continuous tracking. At 0327, 24 projectiles arced ahead of the predicted submarine position. 4 seconds later, 2 detonations, then a massive underwater implosion. U-386's pressure hull failed, destroyed within 17 minutes from radar detection to confirmed kill. Schwanka surfaced at 0430 hours to recharge, maintaining strict radio silence. No destroyers appeared, no aircraft. For 2 hours, he replenished the batteries to 70%, then submerged again, prepared for another day beneath the waves. He began to notice a pattern. U-386 had transmitted a position report at 1507 hours the previous day. 11 hours later, explosions signaled its destruction. U-258 transmitted 1,451 hours, destroyed at 1734 hours. Correlation was undeniable. Every U-boat that transmitted was hunted. Every one that remained silent survived. Wolfpack doctrine, reliant on communication and coordination, had become a death sentence. Every transmission painted a target. Every weather report, every tactical message, every routine update, a call to the hunters. By 1800 hours, 36 hours after Schwanka's first transmission, U-boat command issued direct orders. Report positions immediately for a coordinated night attack. 12 U-boats transmitted in the next 45 minutes. Schwanka listened, aware of each brief, encrypted signal. The HF-DF network captured them all, providing the Allies with a complete tactical picture within 40 minutes. Gretton's decision was decisive. Move on offense. Escorts converged on HF-DF positions, cutting off retreat paths, while aircraft patrolled overhead. Between 2,000 hours and 400 hours, 6 U-boats were engaged. U-613 forced to dive, depth charged, damaged. U-415 bombed from the air. U-84 and U-264 destroyed or forced to abort. U-630 hunted for 3 hours. Not a single torpedo reached the convoy. Schwanka heard the distant, unmistakable sounds of imploding pressure hulls through his hydrophones. At 0600 hours, the Wolfpack was decimated. Of 30 U-boats operational 2 days prior, only 18 remained. 6 destroyed, 6 damaged and aborting. No merchant ships lost. The mathematics were clear. Silence was survival. Communication was death. On May 6, 1943, Schwanka returned to base in Lorient, France. For the final week, he had transmitted only twice, both unavoidable orders from command, and survived unscathed. His patrol report documented the pattern. Transmissions correlated directly with Allied detection and destruction. He recommended immediate changes to Wolfpack doctrine. Minimize radio use, coordinate via pre-arranged positions, reduce risk even at the cost of operational efficiency. Command responded politely, noting the observations but ordered standard communication to continue. The statistics would soon speak for themselves. May 1943 became known as Black May. 43 U-boats destroyed, over 1,000 submariners killed, 1/4 of the operational fleet lost in 30 days. On May 24th, Admiral Doinitz ordered the withdrawal of all U-boats from North Atlantic convoy routes. The Battle of the Atlantic had decisively shifted. Post-war analysis confirmed Schwanka's insight. By early 1943, the HFDF network achieved nearly complete coverage, detection rates of 95%, average positional accuracy 5 kilometers. German losses from April to May 1943. 76 boats, approximately 60% detected via HFDF before being destroyed by radar, sonar, and hedgehog attacks. The invisible weapon, driven by mathematics and physics rather than firepower, had done its work. Radio waves had become death sentences. Communication had become the enemy. The Wolfpack doctrine, once the backbone of German naval strategy, had collapsed because coordination required talking, and talking meant dying. Corvette and Captain Hansim Schwanka survived, witnessing firsthand the lethal effectiveness of Allied technological integration. The story of April 28 to May 5, 1943, remains one of the clearest examples in naval history where mathematics, physics, and communication interception redefined the battlefield. The invisible net had worked, not with guns, not with torpedoes, but with data, timing, and calculation. April 30th, 1943. Dawn broke over a gray, churning Atlantic. The wind had eased slightly, but the sea remained relentless. Whitecaps stretched across the horizon like fractured glass. Schwanka, in the cramped confines of U-43, observed the rolling waves through the periscope. Crewmen moved with mechanical precision, exhausted from continuous submerged operations, yet the tension was palpable. Each man knew the invisible danger lurking. The very act of speaking could draw death from the depths. Schwanka leaned over the navigation charts, tracing the previous day's transmissions. Each mark represented a U-boat lost or disabled. He ran a finger along the times and positions. U-386, U-258, U-630. Patterns emerged like a cruel geometry lesson. Lines, intersections, and triangles marking death zones. The correlation was undeniable. Radio transmission equaled detection. Each previous patrol, each routine report, had spelled disaster for his comrades. By mid-morning, Schwanka convened a brief meeting with his senior officers. They discussed the patrol orders, the need to coordinate without speaking, and the essential goal of survival. Standard Wolfpack doctrine was rendered obsolete. Coordination via radio was now a liability. Schwanka had to rely on prearranged positions, timing, and silent understanding between boats. A dangerous experiment in autonomy under pressure. Meanwhile, Allied forces continued to consolidate their grip. Aircraft from HMS Biter scouted endlessly over the previously reported positions, maintaining constant surveillance. The convoys themselves, unaware of the deadly dance above and below the waves, continued steadily westward. Merchant ships rolled in the heavy seas, their decks slick with spray. Smoke from funnel stacks pierced the morning fog, and the rhythmic thrum of engines was a reassuring constant, though the danger below was invisible and persistent. At 1400 hours, U-43 surfaced briefly to recharge batteries. Schwanka maintained strict radio silence, issuing only visual signals to coordinate the crew. Observers scanned the horizon, binoculars straining against the mist. Every shadow on the waves, every wake or glint of metal could mean detection. The U-boat's radar detector picked up faint signals, and the crew knew the Allies' technological net extended far beyond what the Germans imagined. By 1500 hours, the psychological toll became apparent. Men hunched over instruments, eyes strained. The constant threat of sudden destruction, combined with the unrelenting sea, created a quiet tension that pressed on every nerve. Even minor errors could be fatal. Schwanka noted the subtle changes in crew behavior, sharper glances at the periscope, stiffer posture, a nervous hand on the control wheel. Survival depended not only on machinery, but on human discipline under extreme stress. Night fell again. The Atlantic darkened, waves reflecting moonlight, and the dim glow of navigation lights on the Convoy. Wolfpack doctrine dictated nighttime attacks, close-range, coordinated strikes. But HFDF and radar rendered traditional methods obsolete. Schwanka's U-43 remained silent, submerged near predetermined coordinates. The previous night's lessons were clear. Boats that spoke were destroyed. Boats that remained quiet survived. Allied forces, guided by intelligence and triangulation, had established a near-perfect net. Surface ships patrolled in concert with aircraft. Hedgehog-equipped destroyers and frigates loitered near probable attack zones. Sonar operators listened intently for the faintest disturbances in the water. The combination of HFDF, radar, and coordinated interception created a lethal multi-layered system, a web the U-boats could neither see nor escape. At 0200 hours, a distant explosion echoed through U-43. Schwanka recognized the sound immediately, the implosion of a pressure hull. U-415, U-84, U-264, each destroyed, each a grim reminder of the invisible hunter in the Atlantic. He meticulously recorded the times, cross-referenced positions with previous transmissions, and updated the operational chart. The conclusion was simple, terrifying, and undeniable. Silence meant life. By April 30th, 600 hours, Schwanka's U-43 had survived through careful navigation, strict discipline, and a near-total radio blackout. Of 30 U-boats that had set out with him on April 28th, only 18 remained operational. No merchant ships had been lost. The mathematics of survival were cold, precise, and clear. In the Battle of the Atlantic, talking was death. May 1943 would later be remembered as Black May in Kriegsmarine history. 43 U-boats lost. Over 1,000 submariners killed. The operational fleet reduced by nearly a quarter in just 30 days. The collapse of the Wolfpack doctrine was absolute. Communication, the very element that had once made coordinated attacks devastatingly effective, had become the mechanism of annihilation. Schwanka returned to Lorient, France on May 6th. His patrol report detailed the systematic destruction caused by Allied technology, HFDF network coverage, radar detection, hedgehog attacks, and the precise timing of each engagement. He recommended an immediate revision of Wolfpack doctrine, reduce radio transmissions, rely on prearranged positions, accept reduced coordination for increased survival. Command noted his recommendations, yet operational habits persisted until statistical reality forced full acknowledgement. The post-war analysis confirmed Schwanka's observations. The HFDF network's detection rate reached 95% of U-boat transmissions, with positional accuracy averaging 5 kilometers. German losses from April to May 1943 totaled 76 boats, 60% detected via HFDF, before being destroyed by radar, sonar, and hedgehog attacks. The invisible weapon had worked exactly as designed. The Atlantic itself had become a battlefield of mathematics, timing, and calculated risk. Radio waves were transformed into kill orders. Communication, once the lifeblood of coordination, became the ultimate enemy. The story of April 28th to May 5th, 1943, remains a testament to the decisive interplay of technology, human decision-making, and tactical adaptation. Corvette Captain Hansim Schwanka survived, observing the lethal efficiency of Allied innovation. The invisible net, operating silently across the Atlantic, achieved victory not through brute force, but through calculation, coordination, and precision. As the Atlantic waves settled and U-43 made her way back to base, the lessons of April 1943 remained clear. Technology, mathematics, and human ingenuity had reshaped the Battle of the Atlantic forever. The invisible net had proven that sometimes the deadliest weapon is not firepower, but knowledge, precision, and timing. If you found this dive into the untold stories of World War II compelling, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. We have an entire playlist of World War II documentaries, uncovering enemy perspectives, battlefield innovations, and the personal stories behind the history. Click through to watch more videos and join us as we continue to explore the strategies, technologies, and untold narratives that shaped the greatest conflict in human history. Every story adds another layer of understanding, and the Atlantic still whispers its lessons.